Okay, write this one down too. All right, here is the solution to solving this. If we can isolate x squared, okay, pause if you need more time to look at that. But I'm moving on to this one over here. Another separate example. What if we have a quantity squared equals a number? Well, this is what we should do. We do want to take the square root of both sides. I don't want to write square root around it. It might look too messy. So I'm going to handwrite this in. Square root both sides. And then here's the result. Once I square root that, it cancels out, right? So I just have x minus 3. Okay, what happens when I square root to 7? I have plus or minus square root of 7. Stay away from the decimal forms when you can. Keep it in radical form. Okay. All right, so now x is almost by itself. Now that I got rid of the quantity squared, so let's just add 3 and add 3. So I get x equals, it's up to you if you want to write plus or minus square root of 7 plus 3. They'll usually put the 3 in front though, so 3 plus or minus square root of 7. Okay, so if you have a quantity squared, not just a variable squared, quantity squared, we can also do that square root method. Okay, last one. Factoring method is really just using the zero product law. So let's make sure we're very clear what this phrase is. Whenever Mr. Bell says zero product law, you need to know this. And I have reviewed this briefly this year. Okay, so if I have two things multiplied together, or even 3 or 4 things multiplied together, but let's just start with 2. 2 things multiplied together and it equals 0, then it makes logical sense that one of these must be 0. 6 times 2 is not 0, right? But 6 times 0 is 0. So one of these or both of these has to be 0 when we have this scenario. So if that's true, then either A is 0 or B is 0, or maybe both. Okay, that's the zero product law. So we would use it when we're trying to factor a problem, kind of like this. So let's start off with one that's really easy to factor, like x squared plus 6x minus 16 equals 0. Write that down. Here's our example. All right, now grouping is something we can do here for factoring from the previous side, but when A is 1, you can shortcut it as I talked about in the warm-up last week. So take the time to split this term if you want to, but if you know the factors of C that add up to B, we can jump right into it, okay? So the factors are going to be x plus 8 and x minus 2. Like I said, you might have to slow down and take more time to do that on your own, wherever you're at on factoring, but this is how we factor that trinomial. And here we go. Now I'm on the zero product law. If A times B equals 0, then either A is 0 or B is 0. So I set both of these factors equal to 0 and I solve them. Okay, so I'm going to say x plus 8 equals 0 or x minus 2 equals 0. Solve those simple equations, subtract 8 and add 2. And I get x equals negative 8 and positive 2 for the solutions. Okay. Don't forget to solve those. Try 13. Try 13 below, and then I'll give you some feedback on that and let you work together. Okay, here we go. So for the directions for this, solve the quadratic using square root method or factoring method. I told you we're not doing quadratic, so you can cross that out. And don't worry about verifying with your graphing calculator right now. You can if you want to. But we're focusing on these two in the zero product law. Okay, so in this case, we can factor out the GCF. We should take out an x. That's it. So x times 3x minus 8. And there we go. If A times B equals 0, then either A is 0 or B is 0. So we set both of these factors now equal to 0. Either this equals 0 or 3x minus 8 must equal 0. And we solve these. That's already solved. divide by 3 to both sides, and I have my solution of 8/3. So the solution for this one is x equals 0, comma, 8/3 is reduced, so I'll be okay with you leaving it as 8/3, or you could write it as 2 2/3. Okay. So on this side, you're going to have end with solutions. On the previous side, though, they don't say solve it, right? The directions just say to factor it. So you just kind of factor it and stop. Okay, but I should see solutions on the back side here, okay? All right, so your assignment for today, on the first side, I want you to do 1 through 12. And then side 2, I'm not going to assign all of them. I don't think we need them all. And some of them need the quad formula, so I have to skip over. It's just these 5 or 6 problems on side 2. We already did 13, so there it is. Okay, there's your OTI for today.